The Order 1886 will be 10 years old in February, so I decided it was a good time to finally get this game's Platinum Trophy. I've been wanting to get back into trophy hunting this year and needed something simple to ease back into it. According to PSN profiles, the game is a 3 out of 10 difficulty, takes one playthrough, and will take roughly 10 hours to complete. I would say that the game is easier than what the guide says, as it took me only about 8 hours to Platinum, but I also grabbed all the collectibles and other achievements as I went, so I didn't have to go back through chapter select. Either way, I was excited to dive in and get back into trophy hunting. So in this game, you play as Sir Galahad, who is attempting to break out of prison for reasons we don't quite understand yet. Once you fight your way through and dive off the side of the building, we are taken into chapter 1 of the game. While we go through each chapter of the game, I made sure to pick up all the collectibles with a guide so I wouldn't have to go back with chapter select and do it all over again. So Sir Galahad meets up with Igraine, and they run into some prisoners that have escaped custody and are terrorizing the city. They wind up chasing them down into the tunnels of London, where Galahad discovers that some of the prisoners are werewolves. He winds up killing them in a fight, and that takes us into chapter 2. We learn about an organized rebellion that has been terrorizing the city, and the knights are tasked with stopping it. Sir Percival wants to investigate Whitechapel because he believes a lot of activity is happening there. So Galahad goes to Tesla's lab, where we pick up some more collectibles and gear before they start their investigation. In chapter 3, Sir Galahad and the others make their way through the city to Whitechapel. I make sure to pick up all collectibles along the way, and not too long after that, they get ambushed by rebels in an alley. This is where I picked up my first trophy, Collateral Damage, for killing 3 enemies with a single explosion. In the Order 1886, there's a lot of miscellaneous trophies relating to combat, so you can actually pause the game, restart from checkpoint, and the game keeps track of the progress of trophies for you, which makes it really easy to collect them. So I actually kept restarting this checkpoint to grab my second trophy, Highly Volatile, for detonating 10 powder kegs. Galahad and Percival fight their way through the rebels and meet up with the rest of the group. They discover that the rebels have somehow gotten their hands on weapons from the knights, so Galahad gets to use this sweet thermite gun as they head for Whitechapel. They ran into more rebels along the way, and in this fight I picked up the next 2 trophies. The first one, Up in Flames, you get for incinerating 15 enemies, which is really easy to do with the thermite gun and restarting from the checkpoint. Using that same strategy, I also grabbed the Modern Marvels trophy for killing 40 enemies with a science weapon. As the group fight their way through the city, they discover Lycan have taken over a nearby hospital, so Galahad and Igraine have to investigate it, which leads us to chapter 4. There's a lot of story that goes on and not a lot of trophies for the next few chapters, so I'm just going to hit the highlights here. So Galahad and Igraine are ambushed by a Lycan in the tunnels and have to fight for their lives, where Igraine narrowly survives. Galahad searches through the hospital and discovers that the rebels are planning an attack on a Zeppelin. So in chapter 5, Galahad, Percival, and the others breach this Zeppelin to stop the rebel attack. They fight their way through the airship, and I make sure to grab all collectibles along the way, and eventually Galahad and Percival find a rebel with an explosive device that destroys the ship. This takes us to chapter 6, where Galahad, who barely survived the crash, discovers Sir Percival's dead body. This leads us right into chapter 7 for his funeral, where they dub his apprentice as the new Sir Percival. This rolls right into chapter 8, because during the Brotherhood's meeting, Lord Hastings, who is a part of the United India Company, is ambushed by rebels on the bridge and Galahad has to go off and save them. The fight on the bridge is a good spot to pick up trophies because it's a long combat encounter, so I grabbed From the Hip for killing 25 enemies without aiming. I also grabbed Gunslinger for killing 75 enemies with pistols. A little further down the bridge, I grabbed Undivided Attention for killing 25 enemies during Black Sight, as well as Box Your Ears for killing 15 enemies with melee attacks. Upset about his friend's death, Galahad runs off to find the leader of the rebellion and avenge him. After finding her, they wind up having an interesting conversation where she insists on showing him something because things are not like they seem. This takes us right into chapter 9 of the game. The rebel leader, who is named Lakshmi Bai, insists that Galahad has to see what the United India Company is hiding, so he agrees to sneak into their warehouse with her and see what's going on for himself. Eventually they get caught and have to shoot their way out, which is where I picked up the trophy Between the Eyes for killing 100 enemies with a headshot. As they fought their way through the docks, I grabbed another trophy, Brilliant, for shooting an airborne grenade during Black Sight. You can actually use your own grenade and shoot it to get the trophy. You don't have to try and time it with another enemy's grenade, so that makes it pretty easy to do. After Galahad gets into the warehouse, he discovers that the United India Company is shipping vampires and half-breeds across the world with the intent to infect the masses. So they decide to burn down the warehouse and have to fight their way out. Here I pick up the trophy The Hunter for killing 10 Lycans. Again, I kept restarting from the checkpoint until I got the trophy. In Chapter 10, Galahad confronts the Brotherhood with new information, and Sir Lucan reluctantly agrees to help infiltrate the United India Company with him in an attempt to uncover the truth. This leads right into Chapter 11, where we do exactly that by sneaking into the United India Company. This is probably the best chapter in the game because of the stealth and fighting sequences. Galahad and Sir Lucan have to sneak across the complex, where I picked up a trophy for killing 7 enemies with a silent takedown. In that same area, I also got the trophy Well Rounded for getting a kill with every weapon in the game. After sneaking across the complex, I inspected the last object in the game for the Power of Observation trophy also. After grabbing that batch of trophies, Galahad and Sir Lucan accidentally ran into Lakshmi Bai, and things got a little dicey from there. First things first, I picked up the trophy Discombobulated for stunning 30 enemies with the M2 Falcon, and then Galahad and the group investigated the United India Company for any clues. I picked up more collectibles and then made my way to the back office, where Galahad discovers that Lord Hastings is actually a vampire, and Sir Lucan is also a Lycan who works with Lord Hastings. A fight breaks out, and they betray Galahad and wind up convincing the Brotherhood that he is the conspirator from within that has been working with the rebels all along. Now this is actually where we first started the game, as a prisoner of the Knights, and we escape by jumping off the bridge. This takes us to Chapter 13, where Galahad discovers that Nikola Tesla saved him, and he has been friends with the rebels all along. Because these story chapters are so short, we go straight to Chapter 14, where Galahad decides that he has to finish what he started and kill Sir Lucan to set things right. This takes us into Chapter 15, where Galahad fights his way into Tesla's lab. Along the way, I picked up a trophy for inspecting all newspapers, as well as the trophy for collecting all phonograph cylinders. After a quick fight in the tunnels, Galahad discovers that Nikola has been found out by Lord Hastings and Sir Lucan and is in trouble, so he decides to try and save him. Before making my way there, I picked up the last of the collectibles and got the trophy Detail Oriented for inspecting all photographs and documents, and Inspector First Class for inspecting all items. After that, Galahad finds Nikola injured in his lab, and we have the final boss fight of the game with Sir Lucan. It's a quick time event fight, which makes it pretty easy, and once Galahad defeats him, he discovers that the Lord Chancellor, who is Sir Lucan's father, knew all along that he was a Lycan, because he adopted him as a child after killing his Lycan family. Yeah, the story really didn't do it for me in this game. But hey, after that I unlocked the final trophy for beating the game, and got the platinum for the Order 1886. All in all, I had fun playing this game. Even if the story wasn't all that compelling, there's definitely a lot of fun that can be had here. So if you're in the mood for a quick and easy platinum, definitely give this one a try. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I am Chiblee, and I make content centered around trophy hunting, retrospectives, and video essays about games. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content so far, please consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.